Hello and welcome back. For this card, I am using Mama Elephant stamps to make a sweet and spooky scene. I start by taking the Mama Elephant donut treat stamp set. I stamp out the box and the stack of donuts. I'm also using the Mama Elephant milkshake stamp set for the milkshake with the donuts stacked on top of each other. I'm using Nina Classic Crest Solar White paper as well as a Copic friendly ink to stamp out my images. I do one milkshake, several of the little double stack of donuts, and then one of the large stack of donuts. After I finish stamping all of my donuts, I do go back and grab the box for the donuts and I stamp it out too. To color the base of my donuts, I use YR31, YR24, and YR27. I'm going to throw out a quick apology for my voice for this voiceover. It is 5:30 in the morning, and I got up early. I mean, my child usually wakes up about 6, so it's not super early. But I got up earlier to try to do my voiceover for my card because I felt like I didn't have time otherwise. So I've got the morning voice thing going on, and my voice is getting kind of crackly, and yeah, I feel like I sound horrible. So I apologize for that. Just trying to get this voiceover done. For my donuts, I want them to look like fried donuts. If you've ever looked at a fried donut, you will notice that there is usually a ring around the center of the donut that is lighter. Excuse me. This is due to when the donut is flipped over in the oil, the top and the bottom get golden brown, but there is this little spot in the center that never really gets touched by the oil for long anyway. It is completely cooked, it's just not golden like the rest of it. So I'm trying to keep that little middle highlight or untoasted center to my donuts. This will help it stay a little bit lighter too, because my YR27 is quite dark. I'm going in very minimally with it, and even my YR24 is fairly dark. I do go over with my YR31 several times to try to blend the color a little bit more. Now, this process took quite a while just because of the icing and all the little areas I had to work around, trying not to get anything bleeding over into another section. I also had to re-ink my YR31 marker because it was starting to dry out a little bit and giving me lots of problems. So if you plan on doing this, if your lighter color is kind of dry, definitely plan on re-inking it or using a different color. Because I have so many donuts to color, I do skip through a majority of them because it's just the same thing over and over. I will say that at this point I hadn't colored in the very center of the donut that's tilted. You do see part of that. I do go back over it with my YR24 and a tiny bit of my YR27. For the purple combination that I use in this card, I use V12, V15, and V17. Orange is YR04, YR07, and R08. My green is YG03, YG05, YG09, and I also use C5 and C8 for a black icing. To start, I'm going lightest over the whole thing. I am mapping out my shadows with the midtone, defining my shadows with the darkest color, and then going back through to my medium and then my lightest color again. I am keeping my shadows to the very center part of the donut where the hole is and at the very edges of the icing drips. For the donuts that are underneath another donut, I also add a little bit of shading right underneath the donut that's right above it. Because the donuts are simple shaped, they're stacked on top of each other. The shadows are about in the same place on each one. So once you figure out the shadows for the first one, it's pretty easy to do the shadows for the rest. I will say that while coloring the icing, I felt like it went a lot faster than it did when I was coloring the doughy part of the donuts. And maybe that's just because I was using multiple colors instead of one color combination. I'm not really sure. But I did enjoy coloring the donuts. I actually have a Christmas version that I will show you guys at the end that I had done. I did not record a video for it, but yeah, I really enjoy coloring these donuts like this with different colors and adding different sprinkles and icing and stuff. It's really fun. I have an older card on my Instagram account that has the little mice that are in the donut stamp set, and it's a Valentine's Day card. So if you want to check that out, it's on my Instagram page. You'll just have to scroll down a little bit. I plan on using these donuts lots in the future because I just think they're so fun. Now I'm going to take some Post-it note that I had stamped on. I cut out the little icing from the top donut. I am going to mask off the surrounding areas from this top donut's icing. I'm then going to stamp on it and make it look like it has some kind of sprinkles or decoration. For this particular one, because it is a Halloween cupcake, cupcake? Nope, that's a donut. Anyway, I am going to take this little spider from this Mama Elephant Little Mummy Agenda stamp set, and I am going to stamp it here and there on the top of the cupcake, turning it so it's not facing the same direction each time I stamp it down. So my donut now has spider sprinkles. Definitely not something I'd actually want to eat, but I figured it was cute enough. If I had had little bats or, I don't know, little ghosts, I could have heat embossed them with white. That would have been cute. If I had felt like hand drawing them, I could have done that too, but I was in the mood to just stamp. I do hand draw little sprinkles as well as some icing detail on some of the donuts. For this, I'm just using my cool grays to make it look like it's black sprinkles or icing. I am highlighting it with my white jelly roll in size 5. This is just going to help it not look quite so flat. While I have my white jelly roll out, I am cleaning up around the edges of my stamped images. This is anywhere that the ink may have smudged or I got outside the lines just a little bit with my Copic markers. At this point, I had not made any more masks for any of the other donuts. I got lazy and decided I would just try to work with the masks that I had already cut out. So you'll see me just kind of, I don't know, place the different pieces of my mask around my donut until it's mostly masked off. It's not perfect, but in the end, I don't think you can even tell. I tend to do this a lot because I don't like cutting out masks. This orange donut will also be getting the spider sprinkle treatment. For my straw, I only use 2 colors for each of the stripes. I use my lightest color and my mid-tone. Because the area is so small, I did not actually feel the need to go in with the third and darkest color. For this card, I will say that I had the most difficulty figuring out what color I wanted the donuts and the drip along the cup on my milkshake. I actually had to ask my husband what he thought was better, and his advice was to color them all the same color, which kind of went against what I wanted to do because all of my other donuts, there's not the same color stacked on top of each other. So I had a little bit of issue with that, but after I colored it, I was super happy with his advice. I think it looks more cohesive and just better in general. Anyway, shout out to my husband who puts up with my crafting and supports me and helps me make color decisions sometimes when I just can't manage to do it on my own. For the shading on the drips, I do keep it to the left side and bottom of each of the little drips, as well as underneath the donuts and between the 2 large drips where it kind of is like an upside down U. I tried to keep the shading in those areas. This will just make it look a little bit more dimensional, and I guess that's what shadows usually do anyway. But if you add too much shading here, you won't really get the desired effect. So the shading is pretty minimal in amount, and you're mostly left with just the very lightest green color. I actually was pretty happy with this one when I got done. Now, for the little, I'm not sure what exactly that's supposed to be on top of this donut. The little round things, I am just coloring them all in with my C3, C5, and C8 markers. I'm just going to make them look like they're little black eggs or something, which sounds super tasty. Yeah, none of this really looks very appetizing. I mean, maybe the purpley glazed donut looks like something you might want to eat. I don't know. The orange, a little bit too bright for me. The black, even less desirable, and that green just looks like a slime green, so definitely not an attractive color for a typical donut, but I guess for a Halloween one it looks alright. When I started shading this milkshake, I actually felt a little bit overwhelmed. I really wasn't sure where to place my shadows. I eventually got over that. I just placed them somewhere. If it's wrong, it's fine. It's a card. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's handmade. Another thing is, honestly, most people either don't pay attention to your shadow placement or they don't know enough about it to say anything unless it just looks really, really off. For the glass that my milkshake is in, I colored it to start with using BG quadruple 0. It didn't look like it had any real weight to it. It didn't look like glass enough for me either. So I looked up pictures of glass cups with handles, and I decided to use my C5, C3, and I think C1 gray markers to try to give my glass a more glass look and make it look like it weighed a little bit more, because I don't know, when it was just the BG quadruple zero, it didn't look like it weighed much to me. Maybe I was just overthinking it. In the end, this is not one of the elements of my card that I am super satisfied with. And if it was going to be front and center in my card, where you could see the whole glass, I think I probably would have tried to redo it. But because it's somewhat covered by a donut, and then later I put a little ghost image over it, I just left it. For my dollop of whipped cream, I used W00 and W2. Minimal shading here. I still wanted it to look white. I want my donuts to be able to slide into the box, and to do this, I just take my X-Acto knife and run it along the edge between one of the sides of the box and the bottom of the box. This will allow me to just tuck my donuts inside. Now I'm sure you're wondering why I colored one of the two donuts and not both of them. And that is because I didn't want the back donut. So I'm actually just going to trim around the edge, leaving a border like is on the rest of the donut. And then I'm going to take my white gel pen and go over the black stamped lines. This will make it look more like just a single donut that was stamped and not one that was in a group. To color my box, I'm using C0, C1, and C3. This is another element on my card that I wasn't the most thrilled about. I do think I went a little bit too heavy-handed with some of my grays on the box. For my ghost images, I am going to pull out a little piece of vellum, and I chose 3 ghosts from the Mama Elephant Little Boo Agenda stamp set. I am going to heat emboss the 3 ghosts onto my vellum using Versamark ink and Hero Art's White Satin Pearl embossing powder. Here's where I debate for a while on if I want to keep the ghosts as they are or if I want to redo them with white heat embossing powder, because right now you cannot see them that well. And ultimately I decided I would just cut them out. I would dot the eyes and the mouth with a black glaze pen so at least that was more visible, and then rest it against something that would be on the card to see if it would show up a little bit more. I wasn't mad about the way it looked after this, so I continued with what I already had. For the little ghost with the lollipop, I did cut that out of his hand. I didn't really feel like it fit. There is still a little bit of lines from where it was stamped and embossed, but I'm not too worried about it because it is so light, you're not really going to notice it once it's on the card. The reason this little donut is left bare as far as the icing color is because I really wasn't sure what color I wanted it to be. So I opted for a white icing, and I used the W00 and W2 for this. And then I made little orange icing detail, like icing was just drizzled over the top. And after that, I take my gray markers and I make little black sprinkles. Something that would be fun here is if you had lots of colors of embossing powder and an embossing pen, and you just did all of the little details with an embossing pen and then put different color embossing powders over the top. The reason I did not do this was because I planned on making all of the icing glazed looking using glossy accents, and I really wasn't sure how that was going to look together, so I left it just being a marker. Here I have my background cut out of 2 different kinds of paper, and I used a Hero Arts rectangle die that fit inside of this honeybee stamp scallop A2 die. For my sentiments, I am using the Trick or Treat from Fox Costumes Before and After from Lawn Fawn, as well as this Treats, of course, from the Costume Party stamp set from Lawn Fawn. I am stamping these both in VersaFine ink, as it is a darker, crisper ink. I'm then going to add a question mark using my Faber-Castell artist pen. This one is size medium. I couldn't find a question mark quickly enough that was about the same size as the words Trick or Treat. As I glue these pieces down, most of them I am going to use liquid glue. My exception is on the back of this wood stripe panel that is blue. I am actually using score tape. Now, I don't usually use score tape for this kind of thing, but this blue paper is very thin, and I didn't want the glue to make the paper look bubbly or, I don't know, I didn't want it to mess anything up. So this is why I decided to just use score tape. What really helped here with my placement was the fact that this black rectangle does have stitch detail around it. Now all that's left is to glue all my pieces together and to the card. I'm just using liquid glue to attach the donuts flat inside the box. The stack of donuts will be adhered to my card panel, as well as the box of donuts, using liquid glue. these are going to be the furthest in the back. For my little vellum ghosts, I really don't want the glue to show up underneath the ghosts. So I'm trying to find different ways to adhere them down where you won't be able to see the glue. For this particular ghost in the box of donuts, there was no way around it. So I covered the entire thing in a thin layer of glue in the hopes that it would all look the same and it wouldn't really be noticeable that there was glue behind it. For the little ghost that's behind the tall stack of donuts, you can see some of the glue because it kind of oozed out. I added a little bit too much, but I mostly adhered him down just behind the donuts, so you can't see most of the glue. For my milkshake, I am using a single layer of Big Mama foam tape behind it to give it a little bit more dimension and make it look more like it's popped up in front of the box of donuts and the stack of donuts. For the donut that is going to sit in front of the cup, I actually used 2 layers of foam tape. I do want to mention here, because I did not show it in the video, that I did cut out the center of my mug handle because it was stacked over the box of donuts where you could see, or where you should be able to see, one of the donuts poke through. I did not like it being just solid paper there. To adhere this third ghost, I just tuck him behind the donut. I do have to put a little bit of liquid glue on the back of him, which I didn't actually show in this because I didn't realize that he wasn't on the foam tape just a little bit, but he was on the foam tape a lot, so my donut wasn't sticking down very well. To attach the whole panel to my card base, I'm using liquid glue so that I can line it up easily. And now for the final touch, I am going to take glossy accents and I am going to go over each of the donuts where it is iced. I also add glossy accents to the drips on the cup. At this point, my toddler is awake and making plenty of noise, so at the very end of this video, if you hear a bunch of noise, please forgive me, it's my toddler. At the end of doing all this glossy accents, I realized that that corner on the right hand side looked a little bit bare, so I took that same spider that I used for sprinkles and I decided to stamp it just above the donut box. I then take my white gel pen and make a little web coming from the spider to the top of the card. And that is my completed card. At the end of the video, you will see a Christmas version as well. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'll be back with another video soon. Bye!